There you go. And in fact, my mic was off the entire time, so hopefully it's not too embarrassing. All right. Let me see your channel. I'm just fixing one thing that's remaining. And I'm gonna also start the recording on my side. There you go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I'm starting this on top of that. So it will be very data intensive. And it needs to be public. All right. Like that. Okay. We are almost good to go. I just need a Brian Hoyer to be in there. I'll see. I'm just sending Brian his stuff. And finally, click meeting link. We're gonna start on time, folks. Almost. Geez, compared to last time, it was very difficult. There's a law for that. I think it's Murphy's. There you go. So that's why you keep your email open so that Brian can join in. Now we should be good to go. And we will get started in a second. 12:59. Almost ready. And yes, just one more thing. This here, copying the link. And we're almost ready. There's a few technicalities to live streaming that honestly I could not envision at first, how technical it is, and you just do one wrong thing and you're in trouble. People are not able to see your things. So yeah, it is if even for, I consider myself tech savvy, but the last time around just what was too very bad.
Okay. It's my turn for technical difficulties here.
No worries. We're gonna get started in a second. People are just in the waiting room, so we're good, and I'm almost ready to get started. I'll just something webinar. Trying to fix a quick thing here. I'll just maximize this. Just give me a sec.
Oh, one quick thing.
Sure.
From the last webinar, I did a little review while I was working on some other things. At the end, when we're sharing testimonials, there's one that you'd already shared previously.
Yeah, that's true. You remember which was it? I can just cut it out, or you can just delete that part if you remember.
Yeah, I think it was. And you mentioned it in the beginning, so I'll look at the end and I'll try to see if I can find it here and just delete that one.
Okay.
I think it was Stephanie. Was there Stephanie?
Stephanie S. Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
That's correct. Okay. And we should get started in just a sec here because people are going to be waiting. But we're supposed to send the last chance email right now. I'm just gonna verify that is the case. So that's just if I see it and I don't remember which it. Well, I'll find it obvious.
I got it.
That
I
okay,
I
perfect.
just took it off, so you're good.
Thank you. Perfect, and I'm just gonna replace this like that. Save. Perfect. And then done. We're live. Don't miss it. Okay, perfect. It's been sent. Awesome. So let's click start here. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're starting. I swear we're starting in time this time. Well, 3 minutes late. Still, it is way better. And we're doing this Anchor webinar, 3 troubling myths around electro-pollution. I'm here, Nick, the EMF guy, Pineault, with Brian Hoyer. Brian, how are you feeling this, well, for me, afternoon?
I'm doing good. It's morning here on the West Coast, so I've got a big nutritious shake here that I make for myself every morning with a little bit of coffee in it. So
oh, that's your secret.
Yeah, that's my secret. I think I need to do a detox from coffee like you did, but I'm afraid of the headache that's going to follow. So
yeah, me too. I probably need to do it every couple of months to be sure. Hey, everyone, just let us know. Can you hear us okay? And then let us know in the chat if you can see it. Where are you guys from? It is a very small and private group today, so we're going to be able to answer your questions at the end. I'm very excited to have you guys on board, and then people listening to the replay. I'm excited that you want to get educated about 5G and that you've decided to register to this this Anchor. So don't hesitate, guys. Click the chat. Golden CO. Okay, at least we have one person listening.
Woohoo.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much, Nancy. Okay, the last time around, I want to apologize again, and then we'll move on quickly to this webinar. But we had so many issues getting in the last webinar, and we started almost 20 minutes late. It is on me. I did not test things properly, and the page was all not correct. And I find it, yeah, it shouldn't happen, especially because we had thousands of people miss on the webinar. So I apologize for that. Anyway, we're going to get started. So welcome to this webinar. If you don't know me, my name is Nick, the EMF guy Pineault. I'm an author and advocate for safe technologies. I've been featured on 100 plus offline and online media outlets in the last years, and I've been spreading words, the good word on the topic of electro-pollution and how we need to protect ourselves. And Brian, what about you?
Yeah, my name is Brian Hoyer. I'm an EMF mitigation specialist and founder of Shielded Healing, growing, and I like to think it's a cutting-edge EMF mitigation and shielding company. And we serve mainly North America, but we've also been venturing off into the possibility of going around the world in some areas. So, but I've been spreading awareness about electropollution for several years. And me and my team have been advising top functional medicine doctors on EMFs, professional athletes, biohackers, health-minded people, and those who are actually considered electro-hypersensitive as well. And we also do a lot of consulting for many health and wellness companies to make their products safer from EMF exposures. So I'm very happy to be doing this work and connecting with like-minded people that care about their health and the health of people that they love. So I'm excited for the webinar today.
For sure, and I'm super excited too. And I like the fact that we're going to have a small group. And I know that in 30 minutes at the end, after the webinar, we're going to be able to answer a lot of questions because we have a small group. So that's an advantage for you guys of taking action for the Encore. So appreciate it. And before we start, I'm going to ask you to turn off your phone or at least put it in airplane mode. Except, of course, if you're listening to this on your phone, obviously, because you'll get disconnected. But we recommend watching this webinar from a wired connection instead of Wi-Fi in order to minimize your exposure to electro-pollution. And if you don't know how to do that, or if you're on Wi-Fi and panicking right now, don't worry. You can keep using Wi-Fi, but we're going to help you figure this stuff out, and this is our mission to help you reduce exposure. And an important point to run things smoothly, we'll take questions at the end of the presentation, and there will be a special section where I click something and then all your questions will be sorted out in order of priority for us. It will really make the process smoother at the end. So please stay until the very end to get your questions answered on EMFs and anything EMF related. And I want to mention that right underneath this presentation, you'll see a detailed description of a new EMF protection course that Brian and I are launching, and that's called Electro-Pollution Fix. And that's a solution that goes in way more depth than we ever could during today's presentation. It's something we've been working hard for the last year and a half on, and we'll talk about this at the end. But for now, let's dive into the webinar. And I want to hear from you first. What did you hear this year or in the last years about 5G? So was it positive? Was it negative, or was it neutral? And what did you hear? Did you hear about the health impact? Did you hear about the security? And what is your main issue when you hear 5G? What comes in mind? Let me know in the chat box. We have a few people typing. A lot of people think about the towers are too close, and these kind of things are very, very common. Katie says negative health and environmental impact. Great point, because it's not just humans. It's also, the impact to nature. And it's crazy to me that we're not talking about environmental exposure when clearly people are against the widespread use of pesticides, and we're really moving in the good direction for the use of those, but not so much for electropollution. Angie says concern about towers being too close to the home, and only positive from cell phone companies, and bad from health people like you guys. That's true. Sensitivity and health problems from EMFs. That's correct. So does it sound like you? I want to really understand why you guys are taking your time today on a Friday afternoon EST to educate yourself on EMFs, or maybe evening if you're in Europe, and give a shout out in the chat. So does it sound like you? You want to know the truth about 5G and other sources of electropollution and how to protect yourself and your family. And maybe you've been doing your own research for a while, but you're kind of still unsure exactly what the risks are, how much is too much, and how you can protect yourself. And you wish you could know exactly how to protect yourself and stop worrying about EMFs, right? Does it sound anything like you? You guys resonate with any of this? You want to know the actual truth. Thank you, Nancy. Exactly. What is the actual truth? Am I paranoiac about this technology, or am I righteously concerned? Right? And it's something very important. You want to know that your assessment of the risk is actually based in reality, in science, and you're just not freaking out for nothing. Or are you freaking out enough? Maybe you're not concerned enough about certain sources, right? So this is really what's key. And if any of this resonates, then you'll love today's webinar, because what we'll learn today is this. So first, how to stop worrying about 5G, not because you ignore it, because you know all you can do about the sources of electropollution, and then you can move on with your life and think about other things, because we have plenty to think about as far as negative news goes and toxins in our environment. So isn't that what's important, right? You want ease of mind, you want peace of mind, feeling that you know exactly what the risks are, and then what you can do about them, and how you can protect your family. And this is hopefully what we're going to achieve today in the short time we have together. This is our goal. First, we're going to teach you what 5G is. And I know some people listening to this might already be familiar with 5G, but we'll go back to the very basics to make sure that we also help people who are just starting out this journey. Think about how it was difficult at the beginning, understanding all the lingo. So we'll bring everyone to the same level at first. So second thing we'll do is we're going to learn what 5G is not. The top 3 myths about 5G that even most EMF activists, health conscious individuals that know EMFs very well, they're getting wrong. And what Brian will share with you today is stuff that about 5G that no one is talking about really. And I know it will really, really blow your mind. Finally, are you being affected by electropollution personally, and also your family or even your kids? We'll share what symptoms to look for in yourself or in a family member that could be a telltale sign that you are being overexposed. And step number 4, we're going to talk about the top sources of electropollution inside your home. And That's how you can actually protect your way to science-based way. We'll help you get started on a lower EMF journey and show you how you can start minimizing exposure to these stressful signals, making your home a healthier place to live in. So before we move on, I need to include this legal tidbit, and I'm almost done with talking. We're going to dive into the webinar. So nothing you'll hear inside this presentation should be constituted as medical advice, and we recommend seeking a well-educated functional medicine practitioner if you are suffering from any health issue that you think might or might not be related to electrosensitivity. The organization's Physicians for Safe Tech might be able to help you find one. And the URL is mdsafetech.org. And are you guys ready? Nancy, we're going for 45 more minutes. So let's go, Brian. Take it away.
Yeah, 45 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A for however long after that. So thanks, Nick. So let's start with the question, the big question that people have. What is 5G? So 5G actually means fifth generation of cellular networks. So it's different from the 5G network that you see on your wireless router. And we get that question a lot. You'll see, you pull up your if you're on your computer, your laptop, or your phone, you'll pull up all the Wi-Fi networks, and you may get a the signals on there that are showing 5G, 2.4G, or whatever, and people see that 5G and they're like, oh my gosh, I have 5G on my in my house or in my neighborhood or whatever, and that's not what we're talking about. So that 5G actually stands for fifth generation. And what is especially problematic about this fifth generation wireless network from an electro-pollution standpoint is that it requires the installation of hundreds of thousands of mobile phone antennas in the US alone. And I'm not sure how many are planned for Europe, but I know Italy is a big hotspot for 5G even right now. And that came out this last year when it was the center for a lot of controversy around, okay, where are all these 5G towers? They're popping up everywhere. This is where the outbreaks are happening and everything. And that's kind of a little out of the scope of this webinar, and we're going to talk a little bit about that with the myths later. But images often communicate better than words. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you some maps of how the amount of electropollution has progressed and what we're all being exposed to and what it's done basically over the last few decades here. So this first map shows the amount of wireless pollution emitted by both Wi-Fi routers and cell phone towers around the world. So what you're seeing right now, it's a version of the map dating back from 24 years ago in 1996. And if you remember 1996, the Macarena was the #1 song in 1996. And Independence Day, I remember that was the #1 movie that year. And I remember going to the theater and seeing that with Will Smith. He punches the alien in the face, "Welcome to Earth." Well, now, welcome to Earth. We have the introduction of wireless radiation, and the aliens are probably more aware of us now because of all the pollution that we're polluting the universe with, going out way out into space and everything. Mm-hmm. So looking back at this map, it's 2G, 1996. This is the second generation of cellular networks that was being rolled out. And wireless pollution in the current cell phone frequency range was very rare in 1996, which is why this map shows us basically nothing. I mean, the closest thing you would have to any exposure during that time for this in 1996 was the really, really uber rich people in downtown New York City. I think I remember some movies from the 90s where they had a cell phone in a limousine, and it was still a corded phone, but it was like, oh my gosh, he could talk on the phone in his car. I can't believe it. And that was kind of the like really new at that point. That was out of the question. Like, we have these long cords in the house where if you're a teenager, you got the cord going all the way down the hallway, and that's like how you get your privacy. So cell phones were just not even in our psyche at that point, or anything wireless really. So fast forward to 10 years later and look at the map now. We got sprinkles of purple and yellow in there. Yellow is the most intense area. So this is 2006, and this is 3G, the third generation of networks. They were rolled out, and they were pretty well established at that point. And you can look at the amount of wireless pollution that's increased in that short time. And I personally got my first cell phone in 2001 when I was a junior in high school, and many of my classmates started getting them during that time as well. So they started to get really popular at that point. And the yellow dots on the map correspond to the highest amounts of wireless pollution, while the purple is lower amounts. And then the white amounts is probably when you're in roaming or you have no cell phone reception whatsoever. And so you can see there's still quite a few areas in the United States where you can get away from this type of exposure at that point in 2006. But then let's fast forward to 2016. This is when 4G rollouts happened, just 5 years ago. 5 years ago. So this is a combination of Wi-Fi hotspots, 2G, 3G, and 4G cellular networks, all combined to create a massive amount of wireless pollution. So, I mean, look at that map. I mean, in just 20 years, the amount we're exposed to has increased exponentially. And then, and let's go back once more to 3G and then just show how much 3G, wow, and then go back to 4G. Look at that, you guys. That's incredible. So, the question in everybody's minds with this is how can we get any more polluted? 4G is already bad. How much more electropollution will 5G bring to the table? That is a really important question. And in reality, we don't know for sure. 5G's here, it's installed in many areas, but it's not completed yet. They have a lot more to do. What we do know is that the telecom industry estimates that in order to fully roll out 5G, we need to add at least 800,000 new cell phone towers in the US. And that's essentially going to double the number of towers that are currently installed with 4G. So how do we deal with this? Well, a lot of people are concerned about 5G because of the network towers are going to be installed in their neighborhoods. And a great way to know what's installed near your home right now is to visit a website called antennasearch.com. And it's going to give you a vague idea of how many towers are installed near your home. I think it used to be within 4 miles. Now I think they've brought it down to 2 miles because 4 miles was scaring people too much or something. I'm not sure. But I think it's within 2 miles of your home. And the reality with all of these towers, 2G, 3G, and 4G, and 5G, is that most people live close enough for them to cause detrimental health effects. And also a quick note that this site also shows other transmitting antennas like radio frequencies from radio towers and television transmissions, which we're going to talk about the importance of that a little bit later. And also, not all of the antennas are on this website. It's not like an exhaustive list of everything that's approved or registered. But it can give you an idea of the exposures that are around you, and you can even drive around your neighborhood and look for these towers. And it has a map on the website where you can get the address and you can type in and you can actually see like where the tower is from that images of the satellite. So in summary, 5G networks are problematic from a health standpoint for a few reasons. So let's summarize some of those reasons right now. The amount of wireless pollution that we're already being exposed to is too much. And 5G is actually making this problem much, much worse. The towers for 5G are often being installed very close to people's homes, especially in urban and suburban neighborhoods. And the closer a tower is, no matter what kind of tower it is, the closer it is to you, generally the more problematic it can be because it's more intense. And there's some real concerns also about internet security and privacy and a lot of other issues that are a bit beyond the scope of this webinar, but it's still a very real concern. When so many devices are connected that weren't connected before, it provides more personal data that's available, and that data is sent out via these wireless signals in each device connected through these 5G networks. And how many of you guys in the chat just say right now, how many of you guys have heard of the Internet of Things, about all these devices that are going to be connected together? That's what 5G promises, to connect all of these devices together. And all of these devices, from like, I think there's going to be a wireless toaster. There's a wireless baby diaper, for goodness sake, so people can check when their baby is wet and it notifies their phone. Like, they want everything to have a Wi-Fi signal. And so all of it, and it's collecting all this data. So that's the security standpoint of this, is what are all these companies going to do with all this data? Of course, they're going to use it to sell your information and that sort of thing. But it also gives them information about your habits and where you're at and what you're doing. It's like a massive surveillance for economic purposes. Um, but it's also in addition to collecting that data, it's sending out more wireless radiation in your home. So there's some simple ways that we can reduce that we're going to talk about too. Um, so let's also talk about what 5G is not, though, because it's clearly adding more exposures, and it looks bleak to see all these, almost 1 million towers are going to be added, and that's not even counting the satellites from SpaceX, which they I think were approved for 1 million more towers for that network. So things look pretty bleak, and I think it's important to be informed about the rollout of all these new networks and how they might impact our health. However, Nick and I agree that a lot of what's been said in the past few years about 5G technology is not necessarily factually or scientifically accurate as to what is happening in real time. And worse than that, in a lot of these situations, people are so focused on these potential dangers of 5G, what's going to happen, what's currently rolling out, that they spend all the time worrying about these future exposures and then ignore the very real dangers of other sources of electropollution that are affecting them in real time right now. So keep in mind as we dive into this section that most people who share information about 5G and might have shared our so-called myths that we're going to dive into, they're usually trying to sound the alarm and sharing from their best understanding. And a lot of it is warranted in many cases, but we really want to dig down and get right to the center of the truth in this and find out what do we know now. And most of these people, they want to do good. They're wanting you to they're wanting to tell the truth about 5G, but unfortunately, there's a lot of controversy online over the last few years. It's led to a lot of confusion, speculation, and distortion of a lot of the facts and the things that we actually know. So what we share here is really the truth as we know it at this moment in time. And our professional opinions are based on years of research and my own research in the field, testing with equipment that measures the frequency exposures from 5G installs that have been happening the last few years. And then, there's other experts that might have other opinions, and we respect that. And obviously, technology changes, and we really only know first and foremost, one, what we can test out in the field right now, and two, what the telecom companies explain about how the system works and what the frequencies are that are being used, and also the frequencies and the bands that are approved by the FCC and what they are. So with that, let's get into a few myths about 5G. So myth number one is that 5G is all about millimeter waves, or MMWs is one way that it's been referred to. It just stands for millimeter waves. And the reason it's called millimeter waves is because it's about a millimeter is the wavelength of that frequency. So the first myth is that's been circulating widely on the internet is that 5G is only consisting of higher frequency millimeter waves, similar to those used in the airport scanners, and that and that is what is most damaging about 5G. Well, I would disagree with that. Let's look at what frequencies these new 5G networks are actually going to be using. Okay, so on this spectrum chart, what you're seeing, this is the electromagnetic spectrum, and it ranges from non-ionizing, very low frequencies on the left, such as 50 or 60 hertz, like what your household electricity is that's running in the walls of your home, to the extremely high frequencies of ionizing radiation like X-rays or nuclear radiation, and that's over on the right side. So 4G LTE, that's the generation of cellular networks right before 5G. It emits radiation in the range of roughly 400 megahertz to around 6 gigahertz. And then they also use, which a lot of people don't know, they've also used what are called backhaul transmitters that go all the way up to 24 gigahertz. And so millimeter waves start at 30 gigahertz. And then, 5G millimeter waves that a lot of people are concerned about emit radiation that's higher in frequency to 4G, but what's being used currently in 5G networks in this range is approximately between 24 gigahertz and 95 gigahertz. So millimeter waves technically start at 30, but they're using 24 to 95 gigahertz, which is what the millimeter waves are. And so that's a new frequency band that's been opened, and what a lot of people are talking about, what the buzz is all about with 5G. And technically, millimeter waves can go up to 300 gigahertz, but so far they've only opened it up to 95, as far as I know, for the 5G networks. So, and these frequencies generally vary in different countries, and with vary from company to company with whatever telecom company is in your area. So the reality of 5G in relation to the millimeter waves, though, is that the majority of the 5G antennas that I've measured in various major US cities are not currently using millimeter waves. And that's partially because most of the phones are not equipped to connect to these beams of millimeter waves yet. And this change that's gonna change with phones like the latest iPhone 12, which are compatible with these millimeter waves. And ironically, Nick, I didn't tell you this, but just a few days ago, I got the iPhone 12, and it has a setting on it where you can turn off the 5G. So I'm going to be doing some testing on that. And there are some areas close to where I live that have 5G networks. So I'll be able to test that some more extensively. And but right now, you know, all the 5G antennas that we're testing out there in the field, they're using lower frequencies that are similar to 2G and 3G and 4G LTE frequencies that have been around for a while. And that's approximately between 600 megahertz and 7 gigahertz. So, and it's more intense, and there's more saturation of those frequencies in that same frequency range that we've already been exposed to. So it's not just millimeter waves. 5G is increasing everything, more saturation. Think about those maps from 3G to 4G. That was a astronomical increase in saturation. Imagine those maps being all yellow with 5G, and it's mostly not going to be in that millimeter wave range. It's going to be mostly in the same range that 4G was. And the good news is that these lower 5G frequencies can be detected using simple consumer level EMF meters, such as the ESI 24 model that we recommend in our EMF course. And it's also a great all-in-one EMF meter option, which is important because we're going to talk a little bit more about other types of electropollution that affect your body's resilience against this increase in exposure that we're going to have with 5G. So I'll go ahead and let you take on the next part, Nick. You're muted, I think. Yeah, I'm still not hearing you. Can anyone else hear Nick? Nope. Nope. Okay. Having a microphone issue here. He's going to try to reconnect. Okay, so how are you guys enjoying this so far? Is this making sense to everybody? Go ahead and respond in the chat. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So I think that it is scary, and it can be overwhelming. All this talk online about 5G and what it is. And one of the things that I've realized measuring this around is that you see one thing online, and I'm like, I have to test it. And so that's what I've been all about the last few years is you reading something and then testing it myself. And that's how I know I can trust what I'm recommending to people when we're going into people's homes and testing and everything. So, Nick, you're back, but the screen is, it looks like it's still loading for you there. So, yeah, there's so many 5G meanings. It's crazy. Like, you see 5G everywhere. And then it was banned online for a while when they were relating it to that virus. So, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and